Talking About My Generation, the podcast with Lee Scriven and Del Bromham.
Hello and welcome to Talking About My Generation. Welcome to the show. Del is away in Spain, sunning himself today, and he'll be back very soon, so don't burgle his house. So but I've got a really good guest, excellent guest with me, old friend, supreme rocker, brilliant journalist, brilliant all-round person. Welcome, Sammy Jones.
That's that tenor, are you?
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Scriven.
Yeah, thanks for stepping into Del's marvellous shoes.
Yeah.
And as per usual with this show, Sammy, we just sort of dig around, find out what inspired you and what was your first record, etc. Just so that punters get to know a bit about you. First record bought?
First record, oh my God, man. The first record I had, I might as well lay it on the line, was Pinky and Perky.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I haven't moved on far from that.
No.
That was the first one. I suppose...
First one you really cherished then?
First one I really liked. Do you remember a band called King?
Yeah.
Love and Pride. I just
yeah.
really like King. I think I liked the music, actually. I was playing it the other day. It was on a channel, and I still thought, you know what, that was kind of cool. I mean, they had the DMs and the long hair. Maybe that was where it all started for me. But as far as so that would be it. But yes, shortly after that, it was Kiss and Iron Maiden, and then never looked back.
You like Kiss, yeah?
Kiss were the band that got me into rock.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, great. We're going to talk about that inspirational band. Yeah, it's funny, Kiss. I remember, because obviously I'm a bit well older than you, and when they sort of broke around that sort of mid-70s, thinking, let's go and see Kiss, and not go and see Kiss, go and listen to Kiss. And you used to go down to Bletchley, Carlo's Records, again, probably before your time, and they had the classic booths,
With
you know,
booths,
where
yeah.
you get in there. I spent half my life in there, and can you put Howard? How was it? Howard used to work at the shop. Great guy. He was in the Dancing Counterparts as well. Brilliant guitarist, brilliant guy. I said, I'll put a Kiss on. I'm really excited, you know. And then when I put them on, I just thought, this is Slade. You know, because I suppose I'm a bit older than yourself, and I just thought, this is Slade with makeup, and I thought, that's all right, but it killed me, and it always put me off them for a long time, and it's taken me a long time to sort of really appreciate what they were doing in the States and what they were doing for rock music. So you're a good example of that. So you still love them, yeah? Yeah,
I mean, I'm not sort of down with the Kiss of today, but they'll always hold a special place in my heart, I suppose. And I was heavily into Kiss. Got the fanzines, the t-shirts, every pin badge that you could find on every sort of market back in the day, and you used to go around the record fairs. I remember going to the record fairs at the Pitz or the Riffle Centre, as it was, as a kid, seeking out Kiss records specifically. And absolutely. And I was lucky enough to interview the drummer a long time ago now, but and I remember him saying, my name's Peter and I'm the drummer in Kiss, like I didn't know.
I know.
Probably
I take it he didn't have his makeup on while he was doing that.
But yeah, I mean,
have you ever interviewed him? Because what I should tell the punters is that you're a very esteemed rock journalist and that, and then hopefully we'll talk about some of the people you've met. Did you ever get around to doing the interview with him?
Yeah, only Peter, but I didn't do... It's funny because LA story, but I was on holiday and used to hang out at the Rainbow. Of course, you go as a punter, but then it became my regular when we were in LA. And I did that, really too much information, but I did that silly girl thing whereby you go, I'll just nip for a wee before we go home. And when I came out, I remember there were two Scottish tourists, and they just said, do you like Kiss? Randomly. And I went, yeah. They went, Jean's just gone up there, check out these pictures. And it always made me think, don't go for a wee when you don't need to go for one. I'd have met one of my kid idols. So hopefully I'll do it one day.
I suppose in a way that answers my next question. And we do this with every guest. I'm not just throwing a miss at you. Two questions here, really. Most inspirational band, and then was there an inspirational journalist that made you aspire to be a journalist? So first the band, but I think you've answered it, that Kiss may have been the band that set you alight.
Yeah, certainly at that time in my life it was Kiss. I mean, there's been different bands through different periods of my life, but journalists... See, when I decided I wanted to be a journalist, which was really... I was quite young, I was probably about 13, 14, and I think it was when I got into music, I knew I couldn't play it, and it was never going to be enough for me just to go to a gig and then go home like everyone else. So I thought, what can I do? And I wanted to be a writer, and arguably I still am dreadful, but I had no writing skills or anything. It was just I had a passion, so I used to contact journalists on the nationals, and specifically the magazines that I loved, so like Metal Hammer and Kerrang, that were big publications back then. And I used to get a lot of I used to send my reviews in, and then I'd get them sent back with loads of red ink over them. And one of them was a lady called Alison Joy, who was a reviews editor at Kerrang. And I used to send these in. She'd give me advice, and each time
brilliant.
I got a little bit less red ink on them.
Brilliant.
Till I got none, and then she went, come in, do work experience. And the other guy, which I did, and that was amazing. And the other thing, I went to see Bon Jovi at the Bowl, which was the first 1989, my first stadium type gig.
Wow.
And I was quite near the front, and I was standing near this guy writing his notes, and it was Chris Welch, who is very
Chris Welch.
And
that's not a bad bloke standing next to
right.
you.
And so back in that day, I was like, that's what I want to do. And
I think he put a book out. I think I've just read it recently.
He's done a lot of those.
Yeah, it's a great book.
I mean, he's
amazing life. Like,
yeah,
please.
He's been there and done it.
Yeah.
And so I sent him a review afterwards, which of course it was rubbish, but he answered it, and I've still got these letters, and they were important to me. And so I used to pay as much attention to those guys. And I remember going to see Iron Maiden when they did that legendary Pitz gig, and I got in Ross Halfin, a bit of a snapper, a few people might have heard of him. Legend in it, I mean, amazing. In fact, what he's just done is, well, I mean, what hasn't he done? But he was responsible for all the Sabbath stuff recently, of course, as well. But so he was doing the Maiden gig, and I went over and spoke to him, and he said, what's your name? And I always remember this. I said, Sammy Jones. That's a great name for a writer. And those things were so important to me, because I really looked up.
Thinking about it, Sammy Jones.
Well,
that's why you say it, really.
Well, yeah.
Sammy Jones, but no, Sammy
but
Jones.
So I really looked up to people like that. So they were important to me, and I still, in fact, I did think only recently, I did look up Chris Welch. I was thinking it'd be really nice to get in touch and say, I'm still doing it.
It's a great story, because I'm a bit like that, as in, we were just talking off air out there, and I'm getting to an age now where I always have actually tried to keep doors open for people, and you can spot them. This is the thing with you, Sammy, they probably spotted that you had it, as in you had that burning desire, and you could see it through, and it's so important for people to open doors, isn't it, and help people come back into it.
And
you must do that as well.
I did a lot. In fact, some of the people that I used to have for work experience, one of them's on Planet Rock and writing for Metro and stuff, and it's doing really well, and I like that, Okay. I think it's good.
Another one of our little favourite questions that me and Del throw at people, and just so you get, me and Del, we always tell people, one rock star you could bring back, okay? And Del and mine was, or Del and I's, whichever the correct way of saying it, was Steve Marriott, because we felt that he'd left the building before he knew how much he was loved. Mm-hmm. Okay, you could go for John Lennon's and Elvis's and all these guys, but they knew they were really internationally adored. But you can choose anyone. But one rock star, if you could pick one.
That's a hard question. I mean,
right
now it would have to be Ozzy, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's so.
But in saying that, you see, we're going to talk about Ozzy for people. It's going to be labelled. We're talking about Ozzy. We're nothing great. But what I loved about the passing of Ozzy is that, again, he knew when he sadly passed away how much he was adored. There must have been. I mean, you went to, we'll talk about that. You must have gone to the concert.
I didn't actually. I went down the day before,
and
I'd been down a couple of weeks before that. I mean, tickets. I think when they went on sale, I was 122,000th in the queue for that. But I did get through, and there was one available for £2,700. Funnily enough, I mean, I did do their last gig before that. So I mean, and I feel lucky that we'll talk about them. But I'd seen them everywhere from Aylesbury to LA, so I feel like I did it. But
are you going to stick with Ozzy?
I don't know that I'd stick with him. I mean, if you're talking sort of for me personally, I mean, we lost one of my favourite ever vocalists a couple of years ago, Mark Lanigan. Lane Staley with Alice in Chains would be a big one for me. Chris Cornell we lost. These are all kind of rock people. But then, do you know what I'd like? I'd like to have another conversation with John Dankworth. I loved John Dankworth.
I never got to meet him.
There's so many people. I mean,
great guy.
Yeah,
great guy. The stories he must have had in the 50s playing the jazz.
He told me so much. So he would get with Ronnie Scott, they would get the boat over, take them ages, spend a couple of days in New York with hamburgers and yellow cabs. No one has seen anything like that over here. Watching all the jazz greats as youngsters.
Get some kipper ties.
Right. And then he was telling, how he used to win the NME award every year for Best Artist and just didn't want to win it anymore. And he'd try and do anything he could so he didn't win it.
Yeah, and it made him even more left field, so he kept winning it.
Yeah. But the thing I liked about him is that jazz is quite stuffy. That's how it's perceived to be, and I certainly thought that. But then when I got to know John and Cleo, I can't talk. I was saying this to Kaz. I can't talk with any clout about jazz, but I can listen to it now and I appreciate it a lot, and that's purely because of what John and Cleo did, because John, just the way he talked about it just made you want to go home and listen to it.
Well, we're in the area for people of international all around the world now. There's a very famous venue here. You may have probably heard about it around the world, which is the Stables, which is up in Wavington. I'm looking to my right. It's up that way, along up that way. And that really, I suppose, sums up Johnny Dankworth and Cleo, that we were just talking about putting something back into the industry that you've got so much out of, and they did it with aplomb. I love the original Stables. And I love the new Stables now, but there was something special about the original Stables because it was built for musicians, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I remember seeing, I didn't go there too much, but I went there as a kid, and they used to open up their garden and everything as well. I remember seeing Bob Monkhouse and people like that there, but I did go to the venue and saw the Mothers of Invention, which is quite a cool one to see. That was very good. But yeah, the venues, I mean, I feel privileged to have seen so many artists there, but seeing Dr. John there, seeing people like some of the guys from Cream and Arthur Lee from Love. I mean, I always say these same artists, and I've seen numerous.
Well, George Martin there in conversation.
There you go.
You know, George Martin was literally, I'm pointing at his screen behind us, but he was 6 foot away.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, that's George Martin.
Yeah. Well, I remember
it was
Michael
great. He was just
Parkinson
talking.
As
It
well,
was fantastic.
That's it. They're all these people that have got stories, and I think if people have got nice, good, interesting stories, they don't even have to be musicians on the stage, do they? But and seeing Jack Bruce there, Ginger Baker, I mean.
Yeah, great venue.
Really
if you ever come into England, or ever especially come into our area in North Buckingham, wherever it is, Bletchley, Milton Keynes, go and see the Stables. It's great, and it was helped by another legendary figure from this area, Jim Marshall, who helped them create the new Stables. Yeah. One gig, and it doesn't have to be a gig that it can be a gig you went to before and didn't perhaps appreciate it, or a gig that you wished you had seen, i.e. Live Aid. So I'll give you an example. So one gig that you could go back in time and see. Would it be Black Sabbath in the pub, in Birmingham, or would it be Led Zeppelin? One gig that you think, I wish I'd gone to that. Woodstock or everything. It's just one gig.
They're the obvious ones, aren't they? But maybe not for me. You should have briefed me on these. These are really tricky questions, aren't they? Off the top of my head, and maybe it's not probably the one I would most have wanted to go to, but just because I've written about it, and actually my dad and my aunt were there, but maybe the Stones in Wilton Hall in Bletchley would have been quite a cool one to have done. Shout. That would have been good.
It's hard to imagine, isn't it?
It really
Mick
is.
And Keith and Charlie and Bill and Brian Jones rolling up.
Least of all, Mick Jagger driving past my grandmother and giving her a wolf whistle. Yeah. I mean, that's another lovely little memory that she had.
There's that great line in there where David Bowie's been interviewed on Michael Parkinson about the early gigs, and of course, obviously David Bowie was a massive Rolling Stones fan, as most of that generation was, and we're coming to these provincial towns like Bletchley, and I can't do it as well. If you see it, if it's on YouTube, type in David Bowie, Michael Parkinson going Mike Jagger. It's a brilliant little 5-minute segment where he says he was in the audience and he said, I was really liking them, and then this Herbert sort of shouted out, get your hair cut. And then Mick Jagger turned around and said, what, I look like you?
Yeah, right.
He's like, I love that line. And it's like, so David Bowie does it a million times better, but that's what it would have been. I mean, we're used to rock stars in the 70s when we grew up and in the 80s, but when the Stones were going out, there was no one like that, was it? No one looked like the Rolling Stones, other than the Rolling Stones and perhaps some beatniks in different areas. I mean, it must have been amazing.
Yeah.
So you're right. So, I mean, Bletchley to see the Rolling Stones then.
But then I would have liked to have seen, really would have liked to have seen Buddy Holly. I would have loved to have seen Buddy Holly,
that's a good shout.
That's a great there's just something about, and
took me a while to get Buddy Holly, because obviously I'm fascinated with the 60s and of course all Paul McCartney's and that generation. They just adored Buddy, and I think he's all right, but then as I've gone on and listened to him again, he was a bit more than all right. He again was very different, had a different look.
That's it. I mean, I was lucky enough to have interviewed his wife, his widow. That was quite something, actually.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was quite a good.
Where was that? Here or America?
There was a phone call they were promoting a touring show, but just how they met and their love story, and it's just amazing, actually.
Buddy Holly's a little bit like, I feel Jimi Hendrix is not still getting the sort of standing that he should do, and Buddy Holly's got a little bit lost, really, hasn't he? people look back and they pick the same sort of bands out or artists, but but that's a great shirt. Buddy Holly does deserve a lot
Hendrix?
more. I wish Dale was here to talk, because he would probably say, "Oh yeah, God, yeah, Buddy Holly."
Yeah.
You know.
But if you're going to say Hendrix, I wouldn't say at Woodstock. I mean, I would say probably
I'd like
somewhere like Woburn. But he played in Bedford. I think that was another gig that my dad was at. You know, but I should really ask him about these memories a little bit more. But one of those sort of gigs, because you always remember, like, you know, I was just saying about Iron Maiden at the Pitz, and I've seen them so many times, but seeing them in a 400 capacity leisure centre, when they, you know,
I couldn't get in.
It weren't like they were growing up; they were already at that level. They just played somewhere ridiculous a couple of days before to, like, you know, 60,000, 600,000 people, something ridiculous, and then they're playing there. You know,
Let's talk about the Pitz, because Pitz played a big part in your life, didn't it? Massive, and it's such a brilliant venue, run by some brilliant people. I would mention Mike Payton before it, and Chris Hennessy, who were the local sort of arts. We used to have arts people, you know, employed by the council. You know, you know, people who actually looked after live music, and I felt they laid the foundations. And then Chris came in, and you know, I was there as well with Chris. But let's talk about Chris first. I've only met one other person, and you know that other person well, who's had such a work ethic in life, who's just absolutely on it and gives everything they've got 24/7, and it paid off in the end, didn't it? The Pitz became a really important club, and you're an integral part of that as well. It must have been great to watch it sort of evolve and be what it become.
Yeah, it was actually. I mean, when I did my work experience at the Citizen newspaper in Milton Keynes, I remember there was a band called Love Hate, who were a rising LA band that were all over all the mags at the time, and I was desperate to go, and it sold out. And I knew you could get in if you were a writer. And I remember sitting in the office going, I can't get a ticket to that gig. I can't get... You know, on day 3, I think the news editor said, just phone up Chris Kemp and just ask, would that be all right? And I don't think I ever paid for a gig again, actually, in there.
Right.
But it was so, integral. I mean, the first band I ever saw there was, I think, 1989 or something. It was a band called Gypsy Queen. Mm-hmm. Very sort of big hair metal girl duo fronted band. I mean, not really the sort of thing I became engrossed in, but it was important at that time for me. You know, it was an important gig to go to, and you find your way, don't you? You do the obvious, like we were saying about Kiss. You know, even people that don't like rock music know Kiss are, but then you sort of spiral off, and I was very much into the thrash metal stuff down there, and just the alternative stuff.
And it also, what I liked about the Pitz, and fair play to Chris and Paul Rivers, who followed it. Also, it didn't become aloof. No. Obviously, it had to get, and they were brilliant at getting bands and getting national bands, but it realised the importance of local artists as well, and really encouraged them and gave them a fantastic platform. I mean, some of those, which I think you have played a major part in getting the bands competitions, Battle of the Bands. I mean, to think now that you had to run like something like 8 heats with 6 bands each week, it just shows you
all through the summer, every Friday night,
how many bands there was in the area at that time. And good bands as well, you know, so that must have been really exciting.
It was really exciting, actually. It was nice because the thing is, I set it up really well, and when me and Chris had sort of begun those things and then moved on and did so many other bits around it, but we didn't just go, well, we'll give you 50 quid if you win. It was like, you know, obviously only Pete Winkleman, so I got Great Linford Manor involved. So you were then recording at Linford Manor, where Jamiroquai PJ Harvey had recorded. Yeah, that was mind blowing, and it's such a.
Did Phono come through that?
No, they didn't. But they were. I ran a band competition at the Citizen. Bon Jovi's management were putting that out for the big cities they were playing in, and I think I had 112 bands from Milton Keynes. I never knew we had that many.
Well, there you go.
And we judged that at the Manor. We got an assembly of people together, and we had Garth Richardson, the producer. He was in at the time working with Skunk and Nancy.
So just for the listeners and the viewers, there was a competition set locally. Bon Jovi, brilliant. Just shows you what Bon Jovi are all about. To let a band actually perform at the Bowl.
65,000 people.
With Bon Jovi. Yeah. And so just so people know what we're about. We're not talking about a local band competition here where the mayor comes out and gives them a packet of crisps. This was like a massive deal. I remember it.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh,
it was
so
all
exciting.
In bands. I mean, my band was completely wrong for it, so we didn't go for it.
Oh,
but
you'd be amazed by what bands actually entered. Yeah. But it was, and actually Phono that came, you know, they were called Seven back then, but they weren't known very well locally.
Great guys.
And
good band and all.
Oh, well, it was a launch pad for them because they ended up touring the States, then moving to the States. I mean, Del's back, the frontman is back now, but he's doing lots of other things, including
really good band,
including a Chris.
There's a funny story.
Now.
It might be an urban myth, Sammy. You can clean it up for me. But I got told that obviously you've done all this work, and yourself, Pete Winkman, and Bon Jovi, in order to get this band this wonderful opportunity of a lifetime, and from what I heard, they got on stage, but there was no sound engineers. All the sound engineers were busy with other bands, and said, "Well, we're not," because they're like contracted to do the bands.
Yeah.
And poor Fono was standing there for a while, not knowing they were going on stage if anybody could do the sound.
That could be, yeah.
And someone stepped in at the last minute and just had a bag of cash or something. It went, "No, you're putting them on now." And
right,
they did it, but I don't know. I thought you might have been aware of it. Might have been an urban myth.
I was stage front watching that, but
I think it was actually Del Fono told me.
Yeah.
I think he told me.
I can tell you it weren't me with a bag of cash.
No, I don't think it'd be Pete either. No.
But,
bag of something, but not cash. Yeah.
But it was brilliant, and I mean, you know, through what they did, like I say, moving to the States and that. Del's, I don't believe he's playing now, but I mean, he works with bands like Pearl Jam now. Looking
Are
after
they on
their
Spotify and YouTube, Fono? Can you have a listen?
I would
people
imagine some of that older
have
stuff.
a look.
Is,
They're a really good band. Right, let's get to what probably a lot of people might have tuned in and streamed in, or, I don't know, listened in to have a chat about. Obviously, Ozzy Osbourne, the passing. Did you go up to the funeral procession?
I did,
Is that
yeah.
right? That must have been emotional.
Do you know what? It sounds a bit. I watched the footage I took this morning, and it actually cracked me up.
Oh wow.
And I, you know, well, I'd been down ahead of the gig a few times, and I've been to that bench a couple of times in the past anyway. I didn't realise that with so much jubilation a few weeks ago that I would then be back, you know, within a couple of weeks, just with the grief that was around there was incredible actually. And I got there about an hour and a half before this was going to happen last week, and Ozzy was going to come through, and I could have got fairly close to the bench. There was a lot of people queuing up everywhere along. It's a long route. But I thought, actually, I'll just step back just a little bit, just like a 2-minute walk, so I could get one away from the barrier, because it wasn't as busy as I'd expected. By the time I looked behind me, after about 20 minutes, it was insane, and there was just no space anywhere.
Yeah, it's incredible footage.
Oh, I mean,
incredible.
Everywhere you looked, it was. Somebody said, "Oh, look at all those up there," and you sort of, in the distance there were buildings and people standing on top of them. It shows you just
how much music touches people, doesn't it?
It was.
Whether you're not into, I'm going to say now, I love Black Sabbath and what they did, but I didn't buy every record and everything. So people start going, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." Well, I don't really. I just know Ozzy. It probably as the most general public know him, but it just for me proves how much these personalities and these bands sort of got in, touched people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, reading some of the messages, there's a big mural that's been done that everybody's seen as well, and I've been down there a few times watching that being put together, and I met the artist last week. Finally, he was there when I was there. But there's a lot of floral arrangements left there as well, but it was less busy than that bench, and you're just standing there reading them, and it just got you. And the amount of people that different walks of life, and standing there waiting near the bench when I went round to the main drag was... the atmosphere was part sorrow, part jubilation, and
I was going to say that.
It was
sort
very
of mixture.
Weird. Yeah. But then, as I say,
it's not sombre. It was like, but you can't go too crazy.
It was really both.
But like you said, you felt it.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Black Sabbath. I just watched recently a documentary on it, and one of the things I wanted to talk about, especially if Del was here, that like nearly all the bands in the 60s, and great bands that went on to be great original artists, they were a covers band, and they just really loved music, and that's what really came across when I was reading about them and watching them, that they had a love of music, full stop.
Yeah.
And they loved playing because they were in Birmingham. It's a very industrial town, and we can talk about Tony Lombard's, like his fingers and what have you, but it was, like most towns, like we're saying, they wanted to get out, and music was a way of getting escapism.
Well, they're like any local band you want to mention. Everyone's a local band somewhere, right?
Yeah, but a covers band, I just think they learned how to play. They were players. A great band. I mean, the drummer can swing and the guitarist, but they were a great band.
Geezer Butler is one of my favourite all-time bass players.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I've just named my dog Ozzy, and I'm thinking, I named my gecko Geezer 20 years ago. Do you know what I mean? I was there. But I just
But you've obviously seen them, haven't you?
I've seen them a lot, and I never interviewed Ozzy, but I have interviewed Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler a few times, and they're just such nice
Are these online,
guys.
them interviews? Can people
they were in
access them?
print back in the day. I mean,
No, I just wondered.
Yeah, I mean, I
should
should probably
this
dig.
Going to mind reading that, but no.
Yeah, I should really dig them out and put them
No,
online,
you should.
shouldn't I?
You should.
But they were really, yeah, I had a particularly really nice conversation with Geezer Butler. But yeah, so I was lucky to see them when they got back together in '97, and then from that point on, whenever I could. So I did the sort of festival dates in your downloads, and at the Forum in Los Angeles the last time I was there, and they did a gig. I would say like 10 years ago, but it's about 20.
Really?
It's not long ago than 20, at Aylesbury Civic Centre.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
now that was, come on. I mean, amazing. But there's a bit of a story that, I mean, that was such a cool gig and such a small gig to see this iconic band in.
That's a great place to see.
But not for everybody, because I got a few friends in for that. I was really lucky, and we couldn't find one of them. And at the end of the night, my mate went into the toilet, and he's just like, just dialing. And the cubicle was shut, and the phone started ringing, and my mate had a bit too much drink, didn't even see any of it. I mean, that's the sort of thing Ozzy would do, right?
I bet he's claiming he did now.
No,
I was there. Like the 150,000
But,
who were at Sex Pistols Free Trade Manchester Hall. You know, funny that, 'cause there was only 75 people there. But
That's
anyway.
always the way, isn't it? But yeah, they were. Generally, I mean, they've touched so many people, and I think really because Sharon was known for.
Yeah, I want to go on to the
all those things.
You're definitely a rocker, and I mean that with credibility. Am I right in saying that they really did create heavy metal with that first album?
They did, yeah.
There was nothing like it. I mean, you could say Led Zeppelin 1 was sort of coming on from Jeff Beck's Truth, you know, that kind of thing, the Jeff Beck band. But it's not really Led Zeppelin, is it?
It's
Black
not.
Sabbath, and what I found remarkable, which is what I really say, Del would have enjoyed this, that they recorded that album in 12 hours.
A lot of the best albums get done.
I mean, 12 hours, and then they said just like Ozzy loved it because he went down. They finished it before closing time, so I don't know when they started, but closing time was around about 10:30 then, not 2:30 in the mornings like it is now, and that just proves to me what I was saying earlier on, that they were a great band, irrespective of what music they played. Because to get an album done in 12 hours, I mean, that's the Beatles. I mean, the Beatles' first album, but I mean, even the Beatles were taking
But then
months.
Where did Ozzy take his inspiration from? Was the
Yeah,
Beatles,
the Beatles.
You know?
Regent Studios, I believe, which is in Denmark Street, and it was a tiny little place, you know, and it wasn't one of the best recording studios in London by a country mile. The Stones had used it for their first album. I think the Who used it for their first couple of singles, but it was very limited. And fair play to the engineers and the producers. And what I did like about it was that they had a gig in Switzerland, apparently, and they had to go for 20 quid. So they didn't even do the mix. They wasn't even in the room. They just played it, went, right, that's it then, packed the gear in, got it in, went down the pub. Next morning they were on a boat going to Switzerland. They never got it, and then while they're out in Switzerland, it's released.
Right.
So they were only out there for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So it's out there for a few weeks, and then they get the message, oh, it's gone in at 16. I mean, unbelievable at the speed of music in that period. As Dale would, if he was here, would testify that no marketing meetings, no promos, no, what's the Instagram going to be? None of this. No, you just get in, record it.
How much nicer
we got the
was
products.
that? How much more real was that, you know?
And they come back, and then everything's changed. Yeah. But absolutely, but rightly so, because from what I'm seeing and what I've read and what I've seen in documentary, you know, Guns N' Roses, all this Metallica, I just go, no, that was the album. That was the one.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. You know, you have all these shows, and I don't think there's ever been a lineup quite like that. I mean, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Tool did it, you know, and it just kept, Alice in Chains were on it, and they just kept pulling out these, here comes Steven Tyler, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. I mean, I had a lot of friends that were there, and they were like, Christ, we didn't know when to go to the toilet or when to go and get food, because it was such a, I mean, that spinning stage and keeping it going. It's also, you know, obviously Adam Wakeman had a huge hand in that as well, and he's pretty local to us, and, you know, what a day for everybody. But I mean, looking at it now, it's, looking at the footage now, it's such a jubilant day.
Yeah.
I actually spent the whole day at the Crawford Arms. Thought I'll go down and watch it on my own. It'd be nice and quiet.
Nice. No.
It weren't a quiet day.
No, they did well, the Crawford Arms, to do it, to make it open.
Yeah.
It's a bit like especially I thought it's very similar to sort of a Live Aid thing where it became for genre of people who like that kind of music. It was a big day.
Oh yeah,
it's a big day.
And let's mention Slayer as well, because Slayer, aren't they? But yeah, it was amazing, and it just. I think it's the highest grossing charity gig by a band anyway, isn't it? Which is, I mean, doesn't it? I don't think enough's been made of that either, has it? I mean, they didn't need to do that.
When you were back in in the earlier days seeing Ozzy, did you ever foresee that he would become such a world personality because of the Osbournes? Did you see? Could you ever see that
because
coming?
the Osbournes wasn't around, it made him accessible to people that otherwise wouldn't have cared less. Because don't forget as well that reality television, as we now know, it wasn't around.
No,
and
groundbreaking program.
Sharon Osbourne,
absolutely groundbreaking.
She's a force to be reckoned with, and she knew what she was doing as well, didn't she? Somebody needed to keep him in check.
So clever. Well, she just let him be a boy.
Yeah. But
which
she was
we all
a real
are.
businesswoman.
I'm 66. I'm still the idiot I was at 12. And I want to be the idiot I'm 12.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there comes responsibilities which I've had to grow up a little bit to deal with. But secretly, I just want to be the kid either kicking a ball around outside or playing drums. And and that's what came over in that. I mean, well, I think a lot of people like me are now going back to it. I want to go and watch it again now. I've got to be honest.
I have been actually.
Because it's like. Actually, that was amazing. You know, you were just at the time, a bit like Clarkson's Farm now and all that, going, this is really good, I'm really enjoying this. But you're not really taking it in how brilliant it really is.
Mainly because it's Jeremy Clarkson.
Osbourne's. And it's like, because what it did, it got rid of the myth that these rock stars lived this perfect lifestyle with a Lamborghini. I'll just take the Lambo out, darling. Would you like a bottle of champagne? Like, no, it was life.
Instead,
and their life
got dogs,
was so parallel.
Messing on the carpet and him
dogs
can't
driving your man.
Yeah.
The kids getting in trouble. Kids wanting this, wanting that. The wife in your ear hole. You're in the corner as a man going like this. No one's actually listening.
When's the next gig?
Absolutely brilliant. But. Sharon Osbourne, you say, what a great bit of PR, because like it, whether it was right or wrong, Ozzy had this sort of the bat eating thing, and we all know it was rubbish.
Boring.
It was all just rubbish. A bit like Alice Cooper in his early career.
Yeah.
But it was hanging around him for a lot of people.
It still is.
Shutting the music out because I thought, I don't really like it. But that just widened it all off, and then go, no, actually, this guy. I thought. I said it on the show, I think on the radio show, saying I think he's one of the greatest comedians who's ever not been called a comedian.
100%. I mean, the stories.
So funny.
Go online and watch him with, any number of interviews, but like Frank Skinner. And Frank, I remember Frank Skinner because I was watching these recently. He said, I was in a band that played Black Sabbath that played Paranoid or something when I was a kid. And I was like, so was I. But that's just the start of this thing, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And it's
he never lost
he was
his timing.
A funny man, and it wasn't. To look at him, I was saying to Kaz the other week when Geezer Butler first met him on the doorstep, he had shaved head, no shoes on, and I said I thought he had a can on a bit of string. It wasn't a can, it was a shoe. And Geezer's brother, I think it was, had said to him, "There's something at the door for you." And he was like, what? And Geezer Butler just always tells the story with a big smile on his face. And Frank Skinner said, why do you have that on a bit of string? He said, well, I always wanted a dog, but I couldn't afford one. And it's obvious, isn't it?
That's very Tommy Cooper.
Right? I mean, such a great storyteller. But it wasn't but you would never have bet on him having thousands and thousands and bringing. I mean, it wasn't in Birmingham. It wasn't just those those people that turned up to, share in that passing of him that day. I mean, I was there, like I say, a couple of weeks before, the day before that gig, and it was without a word of a lie. The whole of the city, you couldn't walk past 2 or 3 people without a Sabbath or an Ozzy shirt. And everywhere you go, there's tributes. I mean, even Selfridge's window had been done out by Mr. Murals, the guy that's doing the mural.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. And he
right.
really... The one thing, I'd never met him. I can't claim to know him, can I? But I know how much it meant to him when he got to meet the Queen and play at Buckingham Palace. He would have loved the tribute that was paid there last week. And I think that was King Charles that would have orchestrated that. I mean, brilliant. How amazing.
Great guy. Okay, we'll wrap it out because we could go on.
We could.
I think Sammy could, Beth, definitely.
We won't.
And myself, the other players I want to talk about, but again, this show goes out all over the world. Not the whole world listen to it, but it goes out all over the world. And they may have heard of the Bowl, as in the Milton Keynes Bar, a remarkable venue that we've both been to many times. But it's I'm trying to think. It's real passion for you, I think, is a good word, the Bowl, and you've done a lot of research on it. It is a remarkable venue, and if people are listening or watching, just type it in. Type the National Bowl or Milton Keynes Bowl, and you'll get to see it is. What it is. It is a bowl, but it's great to see it back on the scene this year.
It is. It looked like it was. Well, it was
it's
quiet
had some
for a long
wilderness
time,
years,
hasn't
hasn't it? Yeah,
it really has. I mean, but that's one of our biggest attributes and one of our earliest. I mean, obviously it was built using a lot of waste.
Well, I had to put the mud somewhere.
Yeah,
to make the roads and make houses, and it was a brilliant idea.
Yeah, absolutely was.
Do you know who came up with the initial idea? Was it
it's in my book somewhere, off the top of my head. But I mean, it was based on the Hollywood Bowl in LA. Again, another really cool thing
iconic venue,
and I think every band, I have done a lot of research on it, and I've done a full bowlography of every band that's ever played there as well, which is not easy.
Mention the book, Sammy.
Okay, well, I wrote the book Milton Keynes Wired for Sound a few years ago now, and there's a whole chapter on the bowl
great
and on marshals and the stables and everything else, but there's a whole chapter on the bowl, and the thing is, I've interviewed a lot of the headliners that played there over the years, including Foo Fighters and Queen and all sorts, and you mention the bowl to them, and it doesn't really matter whether you're playing spit and sawdust venues or stadiums, they're all going to be much of a muchness generally. Do you remember that one? It's just another day on the tour. But actually,
the bowl resonates.
Brian May was able to spill stuff. Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi told me so many stories. The Foo
that's
Fighters.
my only hope for the bowl, because things have changed dramatically in the last 5 years and changed a lot over the last 20 years, but last 5 years dramatically, where it has become, the price of tickets is crazy, and this type of shows they have to do now to justify the price of tickets is so demanding. And I think the one thing that's keeping the bowl there, and you've hit the nail right on the head, and I got this from Pete Winkleman as well, who was heavily involved in the bowl for me, is that it's that, and Dale would know this as well, being a musician, you want to play the venues. Right? As I was in my bands, I promise, all I ever wanted to do was play the marquee. I wanted to play Dingwalls. I wanted to play Mean. I knew it. I set my sights. That was quite high, and I felt. We played well at all them years. Nothing crazy happened, but the feeling of satisfaction when I'd done the marquee, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I slept for a week just thinking, I've done it.
Yeah.
I've actually done it. That little venue I read about, and I've read about all these guys, and I think that's the hope for the bowl, because they can make, the people who run the shows or promote shows can make so much money elsewhere. They even get the car park in now, don't they? And all this money.
Yeah.
And you can't do that at the bowl. You can't sit down and have a 4-course meal before the show. It constricts you, but it's old rock and roll. But the bands love playing there. So we could go on and go, fear for the bowl now. But I'm actually thinking, if you're in a band and you've played Glastonbury and you've played the arenas and all that, you still want to play the bowl. And the management are going to have to deal with it.
Well, they've just announced...
You don't lose, but you just don't make as much. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, I do. They've just announced Reggae World's coming back next year. So that's a 2-day in 1st and 2nd of August, I think, 2026, having just sold it out last weekend. So that's great. But also, it's... name drop there, but speaking to Youngblood...
what a great guy. Do you know him?
I don't know him. I've met him.
Really? I've just been reading up on him this year. I'm old, so I don't.
I went last year. Do you know what? He's one of these guys that if you when I first heard him talking, I thought, mate, you're full of it. Because and I would say this to him, you're full of it,
instincts,
right? But the thing is having gone to those shows last year and this year, and having, attended his press conference and stuff as well this year. In fact, he took really my book with him and was really thrilled with the bowl bit. So thanks to Youngblood, I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But he had such a yearning to play there. They were offering other venues, but he was like, I want to do the bowl. I want to do the bowl. Look who's played here. This is where I want to be, and this is what I want to do. And the thing is, all these artists give this sort of spout, but they haven't got anything to back it up with, and they're all being pulled. He's not. And everything he says he's going to deliver, he does. And I know everything's... he's got such a fervent fan base anyway. But since doing this Aussie gig, everybody's blown up with how good he is. He's good anyway, wouldn't he? But I'm just knocked out by him. And I think, for me, actually, people that No matter whether you even like the music, to be honest. He's the new breed, and he's the one that's delivering.
Yeah, I hope they all like. I hope the new breed. I like him because he seems really switched on.
And he is really switched on, and it's my way or I'm not doing it, and I just love that about it. I mean, you know,
shows it can be done. You know, a lot of bands get lazy and just leave it to people, and they get told
they can't, so they accept it. Youngbloods not going to do that. And maybe he's kind of, you know, learnt that from the kind of Sabbath field as well, and just by having this, it's my way or no way. And so I'd love to think that returns again next year in Milton Keynes.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, my dream is the Who doing their last ever gig on Mankind at the Bowl.
Should we make that happen?
Can you do that, Pete, please? As long as Roger Daltrey don't sack the band before they get there. But that, because they had never played it, obviously. No. And I mean, they are up there in the stratosphere. But again, it might just be the one where Pete and Roger sitting there going, well, where ain't we playing? I ain't played the Bowl yet. Well, let's go and do that then. I'm just hanging on to that thread
keep it going.
Pete, bring them up, now. Please. Just say, come and do it. You know, it'd be great. Staying with iconic buildings and to do with music in Milton Keynes, and it proves why Sammy is so esteemed and respected in this area and around. Linford Recording Studio, run by our great friend, a great man, not just a great friend, a great man, Pete Winkleman. Yeah. You were there as well. You know, you were there. You were part of it. And I've got one of my favourite stories. So you know, it's a brilliant recording studio. What top 10 in the world, Sammy? Had to be, didn't it?
It was right up there. I think the difference with it as well is it was residential. So that really put it on the map.
Brilliant place. I mean, we're talking, for those of you on international or national, Pride and Prejudice. You know, this is an amazing building with an amazing recording studio in there, Neve Des, and I mean, just crazy. And a lovely guy worked there as well, who's no longer, sadly, is that my phone? Someone's gone bang. Steve Groom was there as well, and he was a great character. Some great characters down there. And I mentioned Steve because John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, was there. And I'm going to throw another urban myth at you here, and you might be able to clarify it with your knowledge of the thing, that when Peel were recording in there, they could never get John Lydon out of Nag's Head, which is a pub just literally down the road from it, and he loved it in there. And he came back to talk to Steve Groom and another genius who was working there called Blake Devitt. It was a brilliant, absolutely, I love that. I'm going to get him on this podcast and be prepared. It'll probably be a 4-part because what Blake doesn't know about music is, you will love him, ladies and gentlemen, you will love him. But anyway, so this urban myth come up. He came back from us, I want to do my vocals in the Nag's Head. Right, so Blake Devitt, being Blake and Steve, sort of looked at it, and they looked at all the drains where they might be able to put a microphone cable down. And I think they've actually found a way, and we're going to do it. But Pete stepped in and just said, "No, we can't do that."
I don't know about that.
So like John Lydon, so Blake, and so Steve, with a guy coming back after a few pints of Guinness saying, "I love that place so much, I want to do my vocals." I've agreed. The landlord said, "Yeah," as if he'd say no to. You know, after Johnny Lydon after 4 pints of Guinness, you're not going to say no to him. But no, I wondered if there was if you could clarify that. So we'll have to get the man.
I can't clarify that, but I know that Steve was definitely working there when Peel were in, and because I've interviewed John Lydon and talked to him about Steve.
How was he in an interview, John?
He's one of those. I'm not really. I mean, when you're interviewing rock bands,
he's my hero, John.
Well, I love him, and I love.
Yeah,
I was playing them this morning actually. What the world needs now. But I totally love them. But I was thinking, my God, this is going to be difficult. And do you know what? It really wasn't. He's such a smart. I mean, you can like him, hate him, but he's so intelligent. And as long as you meet him halfway, which is about as far as I could go with that intelligence, you get on fine. And I had a really great interview with him. But he remembered, and he used to, him and his partner or wife, I think wife at the time, used to get on their push bikes and bike up to the Concrete Cows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I mean, you hear all these stories. I mean, you're saying about the Manor. I mean, we had like Biffy Clyro and our world famous band. They did their first 2 albums there, and they were kids when I went in and interviewed them. Really, they were so young. I went in and interviewed Jamiroquai. We had Skunk Anansie did their first 2 albums. I remember hearing Skunk Anansie through their producer, Sylvia Massey, and she worked with Tool and she'd worked with Prince, and then she was in there and she said, I'll just play you a little bit, and I was knocked out by this voice which just came out of nowhere.
Great time in your life.
It really was, and I don't think, because I got used to it. You don't take
it in though, do you?
No,
it's just like, this is what I do.
Just the next
so you get older, you're thinking, what was I doing there?
Do you know what, I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I went back there was this band called Wolfsbane, who people will still know. Blaze Bayley ended up in Iron Maiden for a while, and but I love Wolfsbane. They used to be a Pitz band. They come through on their tours. And one night at a rock club in Milton Keynes, they were out. I'd had a row with a fella. So I was waiting to get a cab back. And they were like, no, come back to the Manor. I didn't even know what it was. Come back to the Manor with us. They're all drunk. And I was thinking, I'm not doing this. But they were insistent. And I was really insistent. I'd pay for the cab for them. But they were like, no. And,
typical musicians,
right?
Yeah, no
so it was
money.
a bit, you know, they were sort of shooting holes through cans and stuff back there, but they were gentlemanly. And the next morning, actually, when I got up the next morning, the door opened and it was Steve Groom standing there, and I thought, God, he knows my dad. It looked worse than it was. But then I went downstairs and I sat there in this, you know, 17th century Georgian house, and I loved my history. I thought, yeah, well, this is cool. And this guy walked past and just sort of paused and looked at me, and I was supposed to be cocky that morning. I didn't say anything, but I thought, well, you know, the LEU. It wasn't until I was told in the story later that Pete Winkleman said, yeah, and I turned around and thought, who the effing LEU in my house? And that was my introduction. You know, that's the first time I'd
like
seen
that,
it.
though.
No, it was brilliant. But there was so many. I mean, Jack Endino worked with Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden in there. Jack Endino, of course.
I mean, everyone
Nirvana,
went through it. I mean,
you know.
it's amazing. There's a great story that the owner who ran the studio there, Pete Winkleman, told me about Jamiroquai. I can't say it. Say it for me.
What's that?
Jamiroquai. I'll go to pronounce it. He went to the toilet, and if you remember, the toilet was just behind
the
sort of Pete's office and that. And he said he was in there, and he was just in the toilet, and all of a sudden you could hear singing away. He's thinking, you know, and it went on for about 5 minutes. And as he come out, shut door, I said, "Get the mic up," and I got the mic, and then he just hummed this tune that he had on the toilet, and it was I think his biggest hit.
Cosmic Girl or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing.
He said it was just like, hang on a minute, and then like 3 months later, this song is around. I think it was one with he always had a Lambo, didn't he?
Yeah.
But one of people would know it. But that's why I do want to get Pete Winkleman on the show. He's got some great stories.
My first day, I did work there for a while in the office, and my first day was the first day that they literally walked in the front door before me, shut the door, and I was too quiet to say anything, so they shut the front door, and then I tapped on it, and one of Polly's band opened the door straight away, and I went, I work here. And then, so we just arrived at the same time, and that was the first day that PJ Harvey
and that
was
helped you with your journalism as well, didn't it? You did do the what was the magazine that yourself and Pete were working on at that time?
There was loads actually. I can't even remember the one that was now.
But
yeah, there was.
It was a sort of metal based, wasn't it?
A lot of. Well, Pete did before. I didn't work on that one in particular, but Pete founded Raw magazine, and that was, you know, I said about Kerrang and Metal Hammer, but I've still got every issue of Raw magazine in a lockup. That was such an important magazine for me, and I met one again. Phil Alexander was the editor there, big influence on me, and it was Pete that gave him his first job. So it all goes around, comes around.
It does, doesn't it? Okay, we got on the future anymore, but you should do a book about the bowl. You're not tempted because.
Yeah,
I mean, you did do great chapters on it in your own book, but thinking how long it's gone on now, and the sort of international recognition it's got. I thought that might be on you, but it's difficult.
Is on my
books
radar.
Are expensive, so we're calling for publishers out there just to ring in now and say, "Yeah, Sammy, come on,
I have.
Do your book." And have you got any exhibitions planned? Because you've done an exhibition.
Yeah, there will be one 2027 when Milton Keynes turns 60. And I do have the Milton Keynes archive, and a large part of that is what I believe to be the largest collection of bowl memorabilia anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's hugely important to me. I've spent a lot of money. I mean, I've always kept everything. I've got boxes of tickets and posters and, you know, insane stuff that nobody wants, and then 20 years later they're like, oh my god, I wish I'd kept that. I had that so many times at the exhibition. But I do have this large collection of bowl memorabilia, and that needs to be shown again. I mean, there's not many places that have bought, you know, you can say London, Manchester, Birmingham, but we're talking, you know, David Bowie's of the world. We're talking Prince, we're talking, everyone.
Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen.
Goes on and on. You can't remember, can you? And then you go, Bruce
know,
Springsteen, like it's an afterthought. There's just
Billy
so
and
many.
the Bletchley Boys here. We're talking about the top world artists of the world have come and performed here, and they've been, and people of this area, and people that still talk about them to this day.
It's not just classic rock either.
You too,
exactly.
fantastic.
You know, the Prodigy, you know, Oasis, Green Day, all these, Linkin Park, and all of those bands loved it and chose that venue to release product from.
I think there's a real book in there.
I have started bits, if I'm honest, but it's a long.
If you got how it was set up and some of the funny stories behind it and all that kind of thing. But I think that would be a great book, and I'm sure people listening and viewing would agree. And so place your orders now too.
Thank you. Yes.
Sammy Jones. hotmfmok.co.uk, but no, we're joking. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. Showing me, you know Del Bromham extremely well.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, it'd have been lovely to have all the three of us in. So hopefully you'll come back at some point and have a chat with us again.
Great.
Because, but thanks for stepping in and enjoy your wine, Del. Mind you, I think me and Sammy are hotter than you at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
can't get
nothing to do with the sun either.
So that's it. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back soon. Thanks. You very much.
Cheers.